Hi, I'm Jacqui Simpson with the Healing Trinity. The main reason I've gathered you together is as light workers, and many of you as demon slayers, we have new and improved information that has come about. I'm going to give you a little bit of background so you know where this information came from and how beautifully orchestrated Spirit is with us when we allow Spirit to do that. We know that when we speak, I speak directly to Mother, Father, God. And I say to Mother, Father, God, send me the spirit guides I need. That way I'm not guessing. I know that whatever comes to me is exactly for my best and highest good. So when I do this, oftentimes it's a circuitous route because we need to pick up information or people or ahas along the way. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background and I'll loop it all together when I explain what happened to me when I was back in America just a few weeks ago. So we go way, way back. It seems like a very long time ago, November 2019. I don't know the exact date. I know that it was after Tom's birthday, which is November 12th. So let's say it was the 13th. I was sick in bed for 8 solid days. 8 solid days, I basically slept. I didn't have a fever. I didn't have trouble with my stomach. I didn't have sinuses. I was very dizzy. When I would stand up, I'd get dizzy. I couldn't work with a screen, either a computer screen or a TV screen. What amazed me was not that I felt like crap and wanted to lay in bed the whole time, but that I literally slept for 8 days. I would get up. I had no appetite, so at best I might have a couple of bites of a melon or something and a little bit of water with some lemon in it. And then I, of course, go to the bathroom and I'd go right back to sleep. I mean, I was sleeping 5 hours at a time, 8 hours at a time, and this went on for 8 solid days. If I had had a fever or something else, then it would even make more sense because a fever makes you tired, but I was just asleep. Then there were a couple days after that I was still a little dizzy. I was getting a little better. I ate some, a little bit of rice and this kind of a thing. And then after 11 days, that magic 11 days, everything was fine. I got up and went about and didn't think anything of it really until that was November 2019. A year later, so November 2020, and we know a lot of stuff has happened between those two dates. It seems like it was 10 years, but it was really only 1 year. I had the exact same thing happen at the exact same time. I know it was the second half of November. Someday I'll go and look at my notes and see exactly what the date was. However, right after Tom's birthday, so we'll again look at the 13th, for that time, it was only 3 days that I was asleep. For a good solid 3 days, I would get up. And when I got up, Tom needed to help me to get even to the bathroom because I was so dizzy that I was holding on to the bed, holding on to the wall, it's just really, really dizzy. Of course, makes you very nauseous. So not a happy camper, but again, I would go back and I'd be out like a light. And that was for 3 days. And then the next 3 days after that, I was still dizzy and still careful, but I was feeling better, came right out of it. I go in, of course, like you're supposed to. I did all of the magic. I spoke to one of my healers back in Vegas, and she recommended that I take a particular medicine in case it was viral, and I did that. And she also recommended some other things to help ground me. Apparently that's my problem. We'll touch on that a little bit later on again, is that being grounded and being in this space on this earth in this dimension more often than I have been so far. So it worked out fine. I got up and I was out and about and everything was okay. So this went on for several months. And then we came into April. So I had 6 women come down from America to go to a retreat with me, here in Belize, the 1st of May to the 7th of May. This was divinely guided. God gave me these exact 7 days. Even when it didn't sound like it would work, it did work, and it was wonderful and it was great. So a couple days before, I got a little bit dizzy and a little bit queasy, but no big deal. And by now, I've picked up a chiropractor on my island. So the chiropractor, not the hard and heavy chiropractor, like bone jerking, but not as gentle as I found out later what I really needed. And so he did some work, and he did some work on my neck, and he told me how to get some x-rays and things like that. So this is fine. So the next day I go to yoga, and I cannot sit up. I did the whole yoga class fine, but when I'm laying down and I go to sit up, I'm very dizzy, very nauseous. I wait until the rest of the class is cleared, and that way I'm not ruining their resting time. I feel like crap. And then the day after, that's Friday, Saturday, all my women come in and I feel great. I'm up, I'm out, I'm, driving them in, we're eating dinner, we're having a wonderful time, we're launching this retreat. The next day, which was Saturday, which was a be quiet day. I mean, there was healing work done, but we weren't going anywhere. I get up and I feel like crap again, and I'm very dizzy, and I'm thinking, okay, my husband had done some research about what this could be rather than spiritual, which included things like barometric pressure and, well, pretty much barometric pressure, because I live on an island, and we're very attuned to hurricanes and things like that. And that would have made sense for the 2 Novembers, but this made no sense for where we were now, the end of April and beginning of May. So I go back to the chiropractor. He did some work. I felt terrible. And then as soon as I sat up, I felt good. I'm like, okay, I'm cleared. I'm fine. I'm good. And now he's concerned. I'm concerned. Tom's concerned. And he said, look, the next time you go to America, you need to have these tests run, including something to do with the amount of blood that goes to your brain, and then like an MRI or a 3D x-ray or something for your atlas, which is your C1 and your C2. So this is all Western medicine talk, okay? But I'm okay with that because, as you know, I like to integrate our medicine rather than it being a matter of saying, one side or the other. It's when we have that duality and that fighting that there's a problem. It's important that we integrate everything. So I said, well, just so happens that in like a week, I'm going to America. So I get on, and he tells me what I need, but you can't just walk into a lab and have an x-ray done. Apparently you need to have an MD order it for you. So I contact a chiropractor that I know in America. And I said, hey, I'm coming in. Can you help me with this? And as I'm looking at his new and improved website, he has a woman, a doctor, who works with him, not for him, but with him, who does exactly what I'm looking for, exactly working with the atlas, exactly with the C1 and 2. Her name is, and so I say to, hey, really, I should go see her rather than you, but thanks a lot. And the reason I'm telling you this is the circuitous route of me just feeling dizzy and then going to chiropractor here, who sends me basically to America. I check with my old chiropractor who doesn't do this kind of work, and I find about this new chiropractor who's. So everything's good. I go to America. I spend a week in the northern, in Maryland, and then I drive through small towns. And I will interject here just because everybody listening is American. I drove through all these small towns in Maryland, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. I think those were all of them. Little towns. Every single one of them had the same thing. Hire, 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 for hire. They're trying to hire people. They're trying to pull themselves back up and be able to get back to work. Unfortunately, right next to the shop that is trying to hire people, there'd be 2 other shops that were closed. The local businesses, the small mom and pops or whatever, were just decimated by what has happened to them. I feel in my heart and in my soul that there will be a turnabout, that things will come back for them. But I think it's important when we talk about who we're reaching out to with prayers and good vibes, if you will, that we include so many. I believe the statistics, I don't always believe statistics, but we'll go with this one for now, is that about 50% of the small businesses are now out of business, and very likely that where they're standing, they feel like they will always be out of business because there's nothing new coming in to swoop them up. However, you and I know about compassionate action, which is in not just sending prayer, which is always a good thing, but also to have compassionate action to, when I go into my head and into my prayer and I think, okay, I can envision those little businesses that are closed. I imagine their owners are quite upset. And I can envision them starting back up. I can envision them sweeping their floor. I can envision them putting up a sign that says back in business, maybe in a smaller area, maybe not. And then starting out, almost like starting with cupcakes and then building up to cakes and building up to wedding cakes. Bakeries seem to be really hard hit during this time. And I ask you to have that same compassionate action toward everyone, but in particular, because those are the ones around the world. I just happen to experience, well, I've experienced Belize has the same thing, and in America. So kind of keep that in your thought process. So zoop, we go through these towns, we get to Florida, where actually a part of Florida I used to live in. And I go and I see Dr. Amanda. Now, I'm going to give you the information that Dr. Amanda gave to me because it involves not only me, it involves all of the light workers, particularly the demon slayers. I will give a little bit of background in case you're receiving this and you yourself are not a demon slayer, that the term demon slayer is new for this lifetime. We used to be called just demon hunters because we could not in past lifetimes slay them. Now, when I say slay, it's all done in love. It's all done out of concern for what is best for the planet and the people on the planet and even the demons, because nothing is wrong. Just many things are in the wrong place. So when we say demon slaying, we are actually sending them to the light, sending them with Archangel Michael to go to where they need to be, which is not on the planet. And all of them that are sent to the light, these aren't ones that were hunted last generation. This has been going on literally for millions of years. Those we could only hunt. Those we could take out of one person or one building and send them on their way, but we couldn't encapsulate them. We couldn't get them off the planet, really. So now we are called demon slayers because one of my good girlfriends came up with that a couple of years ago. And I love it because we are not inflicting pain, but we are just like we would do with trapped emotions or negative movement of any sort that we want to get off the planet. We don't like, we just say with love and compassion, you can't stay here. And that goes to demons. It goes to Lucifer, who's been gone for a long time. It goes even to the negative actions of human beings, because those negative actions of human beings, we are not looking and saying, okay, we're going to kill you or we're going to hate you. We are saying we are not going to accept those actions, period. It's just unacceptable. You cannot do that anymore. And if that means that we have to take them off the planet, or that means that we have to place them in a place where they will not hurt us any longer, then so be it. But everyone is given that opening through God's graces and glory to become a better person and to be able to go into the golden age. And that's what we're hoping for and praying for, and more than that, even working for. So back to Amanda and I. I want you, particularly for those of you that know me and my husband, Tom. So Tom is concerned because, you know, the guy here was talking about, oh, maybe she's not getting enough blood to her brain and her atlas and C1 and C2, and it sounds really, really rough. So we went and got a 3D x-ray, and it came in a funny thing. In America, you can actually get it on a disc. Here, you're still getting the wet x-rays, you know, the old fashioned ones. So we got a 3D x-ray and we went and saw Dr. Amanda, and she's there. She's very outgoing and friendly, and I imagine she's in her early 40s, but I'm not positive. Bright light, obviously, from the beginning, I knew she was a light worker, but I wasn't there as her teacher or as her healer. I was there as her patient. So I sat down with her, and she's sitting there, and I'm, you know, on the bed or whatever you call it, examination table, and Tom is sitting in a chair. So Tom, as those of you that know him, he will say quite openly, I don't understand what Jacqui and her people do, but I know it's based in love and I know it works, so I back her play. So even though he's listening and he's paying attention, he's not necessarily getting all of it, and that's okay with him. It's okay with me too, but he is respectful of what we're doing. So I go in and I sit down, and of course I'm there as her patient. I don't know her at all, other than she seems like a really nice girl, and she's half an hour late for our appointment, which they had already told me she always runs late, and I found out why, because she talks to me a lot, or she talked to whoever was there a lot. So I go in and I'm giving her all the Western medicine. I'm talking to her, as I just explained to you, how this all happened. Funny thing, she picked up on the November, and she said, oh, we really have to look into those dates, which right there I thought, well, that's an unusual thing for a doctor, but okay. And Tom interjected and he said, November is a very special month for us because it's, of course, Thanksgiving, it's his birthday, it's our anniversary, and 3 of our 4 children were conceived in November. So whatever it is about November, it's a very productive time, let's say. So I explained this to her. I talked to her about the x-ray and, just there, like you would talk to a doctor-patient relationship, all Western medicine. And she looks at me, she doesn't look at the x-ray, she doesn't examine me, she doesn't put her hand on the back of my head, none of that. She just all of a sudden blurts out as if she's been like holding it in this whole time. And she goes, do you know what a powerful empath you are? And I'm like, I kind of felt like I was Tom, like, excuse me, where did that come from? And then the conversation just took off because I recognized that although I was there for Western medicine, really spirit through this long circuitous route had gotten me there because I needed her to tell me what she was telling me that I am now going to be telling you. She talked and we talked about energy healing and what I had done and what I had taught and all those kind of things that you already know, so we won't go through all that. And then after about 15 minutes, we had an hour and a half appointment, so we didn't have plenty of time. After about 15 minutes, out of basically nowhere except spiritual nudging, I said to her, kind of like, it's okay to be an energy healer because people have kind of gotten used to that. And I said, also, I'm a demon slayer. And she goes, I knew it. She gives me a high five. She hugs me and she goes, I knew you were a demon slayer and you have a whole troop that works with you, don't you? And I'm like, again, I kind of felt like I was Tom, like, I don't understand what's going on here. But it was this wonderful combination of us understanding each other, some with words and some without words. She also talks very, very fast, the way that I do. So we got through a lot of conversation in, although it was an hour and a half session, we got through probably 5 hours of conversation. She did at the end give me a healing. She is a chiropractor and an acupressurist and something else that has 3 words that I can't remember what it is. But it's a form of chiropractic that is extremely gentle. And she's touching different points in your back and your head and all this. When we got to that point, I thought we were finished. I thought she wasn't going to do anything. And she goes, well, you're a magical being. How about if you lie face down and your magic and my magic and we'll take care of this? I'm like, sweet, good. That was after our conversation. And it worked out well. I feel fabulous and I felt fabulous ever since then. So I will now give you the information that she gave me. Most of it was channeled on the spot, as you know, like with me, Spirit just keeps talking and I keep talking to you. And some of it was her own knowledge, because one of the questions I had asked Spirit months back was, were we the only demon slayer groups? It didn't feel like it, but I also couldn't feel any other groups. You may recall that we had in 2020, we had May 22nd, June 2nd, and June 22nd, where we had a group of us that got together and got rid of the demons, again, just strictly off the planet, send them to Archangel Michael. Remember that demons don't fight God. God's way up here. Demons fight archangels. So when we were working with the archangels, we were working against the demons, obviously. So when we were doing this, we had 3 main places, which was Hollywood, which By the way, about 90% of Hollywood is gone now. You will notice that even as you're watching TV or movies or what have you. Hollywood was Hollywood was not the darkest of the demon people. They were to entertain us, to keep us busy, you know, kind of like the Colosseum in Rome. And but Hollywood was definitely a big one. The other one was governments, which would be Washington, D.C. primarily, but also other, not every person that's in government is a bad guy. However, the structure is for evil. The structure is for evil of all of, if you think in terms of governments and government workers or people that have been in power for a long time. They're all just taking care of each other and taking care of each other. So Washington, D.C. was a big deal. And then also royalty, not just the royalty in England, but also other, again, not every prince and princess is bad, but the structure itself is set up to be bad, and very few of them actually make it out without becoming bad. And then, of course, the big one was the Vatican. The Vatican, what we found, and we all had our own different experiences, the Vatican to me was the deepest, darkest, most horrible, ugly pain and evil of all of the groups. And when we went to work at the Vatican, or against the Vatican, I guess you can say, it was again, kind of like Hollywood. Not every neighborhood priest or even every bishop or cardinal is a bad guy, but most of them are. And now what we are finding, of course, is that here and there we see popping up in Hollywood, in the government, in governments, in the Vatican, we're finding these popping ups of people that are good, that were squelched down before, that kept everyone else, well, they were kept down, everyone else was kind of like piling on top of them. So here are the official, so she had her own group, and we spoke about, you know, we all were not necessarily doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, recognizing too, and this is a little bit of a leap, everything is happening at the same time. When we talk about past, present, and future, everything's happening at the same time. So if I gave you dates, which I did, it doesn't mean that if their dates were different, they were doing it at a different time. Then again, if we were all doing it at the exact same time or doing it at different times, it doesn't make any difference, because our chore was to get negative off the planet, and that's what we have worked toward and what we are still working toward. So that was 2020. 2021, just a few weeks back, and I'll just keep this part really simple. We did have some group that came together to get all the little bits and pieces of ugly that was still on the planet, kind of like the bits and pieces of demon that were crunching together and becoming a mutated demon. And it was horrible and they were ugly. But one of the place that I was responsible for, they were in Las Vegas and DC, and not the land, but the water between Florida and New Orleans. Now, at the time I did that, and I was gifted that one from the spirit guides, I didn't know that a few weeks later I would actually be at that water and be feeling the water and sending blessings to the water, because it had been through a horrible, horrible turmoil. Water meaning the actual earth, Mother Gaia there. So we did that cleanup a few weeks back. All of this that I said to Amanda, none of it did she say like, wow, that's different or that's weird. All of it, she's like, yes, yes, yes. And then we're talking almost like puppies fighting, or playing, talking against each other, over each other, under each other, kind of tumbling around. So it was wonderful. And here's the information that I got from her, the highlights of her. Some of it was knowledge, some of it was channeled, and I don't think it makes any difference because all of our knowledge comes from God. But the big highlights of the channeling. First of all, officially, and this is why she stopped me when I told her the dates, because she said officially all the demons are off the planet as of November 13th, 2020. She said, we started November of 2019. We knew it would take a whole year, and it took a whole year. So I'm like, holy crap. I was there at the beginning, and I'm sure many of us were, because we're always integrating with each other. Many of us were. Why they had me asleep, I imagine because a lot of downloading, a lot of prayerfulness, a lot of help going out at both the beginning in November 19 and then at the end in November of 2020. He said, we're not the only group, which I told you. Each group, this was really cool too. Each group was purposely kept separate for our own protection and to confuse the enemy. When we had a conversation, when our group, Demon Slayers, had a conversation after the fact, it turns out that most of the people that were chosen by Spirit, I didn't choose them. Spirit told me, we're going to have a demon slaying. You're going to be heading it up. These are the people we want there. And I sent out a note to them, before May 22nd. So somewhere in mid-May of 2020. And I assumed, which I know you should never do, but I assumed that they had all been trained demon slayers, because I trained a number of people to be demon slayers. It turns out when we had the conversation after, first of all, none of them knew who most of them didn't know who the other ones were. A couple worked together, but in general, people did not know who was who. And I was told to send it out without putting their emails together, which would have been a lot simpler, but I was told not to. And so I recognized that a big part of that was to keep it on edge, to keep it so that everyone, instead of looking at your book and saying, oh, this is how a healing works, or this is how demon slaying works, everyone was doing it with their own power, with their own might, with their own spiritual guidance, which was perfect, because then whomever was trying to stop us would be caught quite by surprise. And that's exactly what happened with our group. And I don't know how many groups there were. I know there were not many, but there was more than just us, which makes me feel a little better, because I'm glad that we had some additional support. Anyway, she said the same thing. Many of her slayers had not been trained. They were chosen by Spirit, and they're just like this and this and this, and they didn't know each other. And of course, at the end, we did. At the end, Spirit told me, yes, you all can hang out together and rejoice together and be happy together. Also, this way, there was a lot of flexibility in the planning. You all might remember that every time, the morning of, like an hour before we were starting, Spirit would send me some additional information, which I would blast out to the demon slayers. And it was kind of that magic wand, or that key to help us. And she's like, yes, that's exactly what happened with her group and with other groups. Now here is something that I felt, but I didn't. We all have amazing gifts, but we have different gifts at different times. And this was, sometimes we don't even ask the right questions. Sometimes the idea of what, once I get the answer, is like, damn, why didn't I ask that? Well, I didn't even think to ask that. So part of her power, if you will, is she can see the algorithm of the planet, like how many good and how many bad are there. It's more complicated than that, but she explained it to me, but I didn't understand it, so I can't explain it to you. She said, now, if you look at the algorithm of negative and positive, and I know people don't like to say like good and bad, I would say, if I had to, what is beneficial to the planet and what is detrimental to the planet. But just to keep it simple, I'm going to stick with good and bad, just because we're already there. So out of the evil part, if my right hand is the deepest part of the evil, and this is the edgy part of the evil, 2/3, so 66% has been taken off the planet, and they cannot come back. They are gone. They have been here literally for millions of years messing with us. And they've gotten stronger and stronger and stronger because we as humans have accepted that, well, I guess that's how we are. I guess that's, human nature, which it never was human nature, but we were convinced it. Great marketing people. So we're looking at only the last third of evil, but the deepest part has already been taken care of. So if you look at this last third, and instead of it being solid on both sides, you kind of do this, because there's a spearhead here. The people in that spearhead are probably most likely, kind of like we hope, going to find their way to goodness. They are people that should not be sitting on the fence, but as you know, our humanity, our goodness, our Christ consciousness, and of course God is always merciful. And so there are some people that are still that last third of negative that will come over and will repent and will praise God and will be rescued. The rest of them, no. The rest of them, so I don't know, I can't give you numbers and percentages here, but it kind of looked like maybe we're looking at 10% that is the spear, the tip of the spear, and then the others are still here, but they are here for purpose. They're not here because we can't get rid of them. We got rid of the heavy duty ones. These are the lightweights, the minions, if you will. And they are still here because we need them to stay here to teach the others, not to teach others to be bad guys, but to show the others. I'm sure that all of you have friends and neighbors and family where you're just like, how can you be so blind to this? How do you not see this as happening? Whether it's in your country, in your church, in your family. I still have people that will say to me, I've heard about that human trafficking with children. Do you think that's real? And I'm like, yeah, and here are all the links to show you that it's real. But there are people that are needing to be shown, that they can't just go into their heart, they can't go into their intuition, they can't say, oh, I can see where that's a bad thing, and go to God. Instead, they need to be shown, and that's what we are watching now. We're watching that. I know some people call it a movie. I know it's kind of a horrible movie as far as I'm concerned, except the ending's good. So we're watching that movie, not for you and I, but for the people that must be shown, for the people that just can't, for whatever reason, click a link, watch a video and say, you're right, I think raping children's a bad thing. You're right, I think that taking away all of our rights as human beings is a bad thing. You're right, we have been controlled by money and da 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 da. So those people are still being shown. And the faster those people get it into them and understanding, the better it is. Because we know the golden age is there. We know it's being developed through our actions. And it's simply a matter of it being us getting there faster or slower. And we want to get there really super, super fast. So I'm hoping that those people that are still involved in the movie will at least look around and say, okay, it's time for us to finalize this and jump to the golden age of peace. This was an interesting one. I said to her at the beginning, obviously that I was in Belize, and she said, and I said, I know I was sent to Belize to protect me. And also, as you all know, it put me in a really good position where I could educate myself about certain things, about childhood vaccines and different ugliness, really go deep into the rabbit hole. But more than educate myself, because I could have done that anywhere. I didn't, but I could have. I was also as an educator, because being where I am, I could, until recently, I could send out things through Facebook or through phone calls or through any way to get information out to people. I didn't have to worry about family. I didn't have to worry about jobs, stuff like that. So it being in Belize was very good for me, and I knew that. And I knew even back in 2017 when I started, or 18, one of those two. When I started closing things up, I knew that I was supposed to leave, and I knew that it was partially for my own protection and partially so that I could do the work of God, helping humanity in a better way, bringing heaven to earth. The other thing that she said, which I thought was really cool, is that in addition to me, she also said that under the coming to Belize was a big help for a great space of healing for Tom too. I knew, because of the Brahmin priest back in 2010 and a couple other readings, that Tom was kind of scheduled, let's say, to have a heart attack around this time of age, right about at 70 years old. Heart attack or heart problem, let's say. And I knew that he would recuperate, and I knew that it would be painful, and I knew that he would find a new space, a healthier space in his life. And it didn't happen. And what she said, which, good, what she said was that that's how it would have worked under the old energy. She said, however, the new energy, he was given this opportunity to complete that introspection and have his heart open without the trauma of Western medicine and going through the hospitalization and that sort of a thing. And so it was, of course, she had no idea what Tom's history or anything was. And I said to her, well, he has been on blood pressure medication since he was like 35, because doctors like just throw pills at you instead of telling you to calm down and watch what's going on in your life. But when we got here, about a year after we got here, we needed to go to the doctor to get our permanent residency here. And his blood pressure was normal, not lower than it had been, but normal. I mean, like, 120 over 80? Is that what it is? 120 over 80. And it was just like 3 or 4 times you have to go back for your driver's license, things like this. And they like the doctor to check you. And so I said, wow, this was, I was looking at it like, how does this affect me? And how does this affect us and the planet? And I didn't put it all together that it was the exact time when, if we had stayed in the States, if Tom had not been able to open his heart as fully as he has since we've gotten here, that he probably would have been, unfortunately, in the hospital. Okay, so this is another thing that she said. What we are watching is the awakening of others, and we've seen a lot of that recently, and this is why we still see negative trauma and confusion. It gives other people the space to understand, first of all, what they do not want in the new world. We know we don't want war, we don't want suffering, we don't want horrible diseases, that many of them man-made, but kind of the nuancing of what we want and what we don't want. Do we want it to be where everyone's working their butt off from the time they're 18 years old until they're 65 years old to put food on the table? Or do we want to come up with a new system, a new social system, a new economic system, which is evolving right now, as you probably know, so that people are rewarded for their work, but more than that, they're respected for being human beings. And we're taking care of each other, not in a way that puts us in a welfare state, but in a way that honors each other's best and highest. And they are rewarded financially for the work that they do, rather than what we're in now with the whole petrodollar and all that kind of stuff, where who gets the biggest rewards? Our entertainers. Our actors and our sports figures are making multi-millions of dollars, and our nurses and our IT people and all that, even the ones that are making a good living, are not making multi-millions of dollars. And of course, those multi-millions of dollars are just being regurgitated, if you will, into negative, because most of the time it's being sent into more drugs and more degradation and more demolishing of a system of love. That is, the system of love is a system for humanity. It is the trueness of who we are. And it's just been, like I said, we've been given all this information for millions of years that, it's human nature to be angry. It's human nature to be competitive. No, it's not. It is human nature to be cooperative, but we've been sold that line of bullcrappy. And the other thing is, for the people that are still watching and not quite getting it, not only do they need to understand what they don't want in the golden age, but also to be able to turn inward. When people look around and say, wait a minute, I can't trust the mainstream media, I can't trust my church, I can't trust my government, who can I trust? I can't trust my educational system. Who can I trust? Oh, I can trust God. I can trust my neighbor next to me, because my neighbor next to me brought over a cake on my birthday, or my neighbor next to me took care of me while I was out of work. We become more engaged with ourselves, our inner knowing and our inner love. And what do we love about the other person is the godliness within them. So then we're looking and saying, I like namaste. I see the God in me sees the God in you. And that's what we are hoping and praying and watching, not just hoping and praying, but watching. You've seen so many people make that turnaround in 2020 and still now in 2021, so that they can be sure of what they want and what they don't want, and so sure of what they want that they actually reach out and grab it and say, yes, I want to listen to God. Yes, I want to listen to my heart. Yes, I want to have joy instead of competition and anger. So let me see. In reality, and this is one of those, like, not quite sure where that line is drawn. So in reality, most of what we are seeing, even the negative, is just being played out. In reality, like we said, if you figure 66%, if 2/3 of the bad guys are gone, then a lot of the people that we think we're seeing, if you watch the news, we think we're seeing on the news are not really those people. It's very confusing who's alive and who's dead. And I personally don't care at this point. I just know that God is divinely guiding us. And so I'm happy however it works out. But for the things that are still playing out, the horrible, ugly things that are still being played out, I don't believe and don't understand that they are really happening. I think that most of it is, again, everything's happening at the same time. It's almost like for people that need to wake up, their information is on a loop and they keep getting looped back. Like, are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? And then after they've been marketed to enough times and they paid attention enough, that they would be able to say, oh, yeah, you're right. I don't want that. This is a bad thing. I want goodness. I want love. I want caring. So, so supposedly we are watching the movie. And again, I believe that some things are truly happening. I don't think that every death from an illness or from a shot isn't happening, but I believe it is not happening in the way that we're being sold, if you will, because just like we know, people make commitments before they embody. And some of those people made the commitment of, yes, I'm going to show people what it's like and why people should wear seatbelts. And the way that we learn to wear seatbelts is that enough people died in a car without a seatbelt. Unfortunately, humans, or the structure that holds humans, I don't think the individual human, but the structure that holds humans is pretty hard-headed. And so, yes, I know that there is death and destruction going on. However, I do not think, and from speaking to Amanda and some of her people, I don't think it is anywhere as expansive as what we are being told. And that's a good thing. I do know, and of course this you'll never see on mainstream media, or I shouldn't say never, because someday mainstream media is going to be the good guys, so we got it. There are many, many people that are helping others out financially, that are helping people out moving along and loving and caring. And like I said earlier, when I went through all those states in the US, and I was concerned because so many of them, their businesses had failed. So many of them were trying to build a business, but they can't hire people because the people are still getting more unemployment than they would be getting paid. However, on the bright side, I didn't wear a mask the whole time, except in the airport. The whole time there were big signs that said, you must wear a mask, you must do this, ordinance this, ordinance that. Now I knew, because it's unconstitutional, that, and also somewhat against the Nuremberg trial or Nuremberg laws, that if I walked into a store and they said to me, you must wear a mask in order to shop here, I would not stand my ground like I've seen some people do and say, oh, fuck you, I'm gonna shop in the store anyway. I would have stood my ground enough to say, I think you should know that what you are doing is breaking the law. It is unconstitutional. What you are trying to push is a mandate from your governor or whatever it was. I had words in my head at the time. However, I will leave your store because I don't need to shop here. If the choice is wear a mask and spend money or don't wear a mask and leave, I'm cool with don't wear a mask and leave. But the reason I'm telling you this is because shop after shop after shop. And I'm talking about restaurants, I'm talking about where I got my hair cut, all these places. And none of them did I wear a mask. And not one person said to me, you must put on a mask, until I got to the airport. And then the airport, I put on a mask because I don't want to mess with the TSA people. They seem to be in a bad mood most of the time. So she said, for me to express to all of you, congratulations, you've done a great work, and everything you've done is based on love and compassion. A couple of other things that she put in there is the gem for this time is the strawberry quartz, which is a little bit different than the rose quartz. And she said, you know, it's like rose quartz jazzed up even more. And the reason is that rose quartz, you know, it's love, individual love and group love and brotherly love. Rose quartz is a beautiful, wonderful, I love using it at weddings, stone for love. However, strawberry quartz goes up one step higher into Christ consciousness, which is a quantum love. It goes beyond all the other love. So now the new and improved, if you will, is strawberry quartz. I don't have any. I did order some, and probably in about 2 months it'll get here because, you know, got a slow boat from America to here. The other thing that I wanted to bring about was the dragons. Some of you use dragons quite effectively. You may know that I have literally a 30-foot dragon painted on the wall in the next room in my hallway. And dragons have usually been, and thank you, that TV show that brought out those dragons, looked at as being evil. Of course, they're huge and they breathe fire and this sort of a thing. And most of the dragons throughout time have been negative, let's say, not necessarily evil because they're tools, but that they've been negative. However, the few dragons, or small percentage, doesn't mean few like there's only 5 of them, a small percentage of dragons that are good are extremely powerful. That's why you can have just a few good ones against a huge amount of negative people or negative situations or even negative dragons. So they are very, very powerful and very good. And when I mentioned to her that some of our light workers and particularly our demon slayers had brought in the dragon force, she was just like over the top thrilled about that, because she said not many people recognize how helpful the dragons can be, particularly in something like this. Okay, the other thing is, now that we have dropped away so much, you know, 66% of the negative, the elementals are now coming into their own. They've been around, of course, for millions of years, but many of the last several hundred years, they've been hidden. We're talking about the salamanders and the fairies and different elementals. Elementals, to make it simple in my head, it's like angels are to people, elementals are to the earth. So they're not truly the same as being Archangel Raphael, but they are the that group, if you will, that touch between hard earth like water and the heavens. So the elementals have been taking care of the earth for a very long time. In recent times, of course, they've had a really rough job because people have, again, not the individual person, but the structure has worked hard to destroy the earth. So the elementals are now becoming more and more and more powerful. I just saw let me write this one down. Patricia Cota-Robles just did a video blog. Patricia Cota-Robles. I'm writing it down so that I remember to send you the link about the elementals coming back into their prime. And yesterday I had a group for Sacred Sisterhood, and I thought I was going to be talking about something over here. And as soon as I started the channeling, then, you know, my guides kept talking about elementals and calling the elementals and let the elementals help you and work with you and that sort of thing. So apparently that's the new hot and heavy. And I invite you, as we were first getting to know our spirit guides, and they like tap us on the shoulder and then we're like, okay, tell me more, you know, because we are the ones with free will. Elementals tend to be a little bit more forceful, more out there than spirit guides. They tend to do some mischievous things to get our attention, like, hey, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. But the same applies when we want elementals to be in our life. We want to call them into our lives, and we call them into our lives with our voice. Elementals can't hear your thoughts the way that your spirit guides can. So please use your voice to call them in. Particularly when you're outside, but even in your own home. And as I said, I changed around my sanctuary, and one of the elementals were not the main reason I changed around, but it turns out that it worked out well. If you can look down there, I have a mirror on the ground, which seems like an odd place to have a mirror, but then right in front of it is a little pillow and a little bit of water, some elementals like shiny stuff, particularly the fairies, like anything shiny. It doesn't have to be gold. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't do that because they may keep it. But they like nature. So I will bring a plant in here for them to have that. Some people, one woman in Mount Shasta who has a full couch that she uses for her elementals, or particularly for her fairies. And I was thinking about doing that here with my bed here, which is for visitors. And the elementals told me, no, don't do that. Don't do that, because we don't want people stepping on this. So I have a space here, and I will have a space outside on my veranda for them. But I'm giving you this information because remember that they are here to help us. And we are here to get rid of negative and to grow positive. Well, part of that growing positive is, well, getting out of the way by not doing negative things to Mother Earth, but then also looking at Gaia and saying, beyond what we know as the proper structure, what is the best that we can do? So when we say to the elementals, okay, what should I do to grow my garden? Or what should I do to cleanse my sea? And I called on the elementals when I was in Florida, quite like just naturally, because I was there and I knew I had to be cleansing the sea. And I said, okay, I don't know. Am I supposed to throw stones? Am I, because there's all kinds of really cool things you can do, throwing in crystals, not rocks, and different things. And they said, we want you to walk in it. And so I walked just at the edge of the water for quite a distance, because you know that as a light worker, every time you purposely send out vibrations of love, those vibrations of love go everywhere. So I didn't have to, swim from Florida to Louisiana or something, which I can't do, of course, but they said, just send it out and send out that love. And so just like you do with your spirit guides, and I'm not saying don't speak to your spirit guides, I'm saying that your elementals have now been able to pop up because they're no longer scared. When there was so much evil in the world, they were scared. That's why they went into hiding. I'm sure that all of us, if we go back, 10 generations or 50 generations ago, had regular conversations with our elementals, and they helped us, particularly because we were more, part of Earth than we are now. So, or than we have been for the last 100 years or so. The other thing that, and this is a more personal reading from Amanda to me, but I do want to share it with you because I believe that as a group, we are always working together. So even though she said this to me, I believe that it is for us. And Amanda told me that I have completed my mission long ago. Part of my mission was to break generational patterns, which I know all of you all have done that, and also to anchor more love into the people on the planet, to bring heaven to earth, which is, again, like, it's not flippant to say that was our main job, was to bring heaven to earth, not earth to heaven. Heaven doesn't need any more earth, but to bring heaven down to earth, to go to the godliness and bring it through us and share it with others. So she said, as a healer and a teacher and a good guy, you've taken care of it. And I'm like, okay, that's good. And then she said, even the additional chores, which I had agreed to just about 10 years ago. And again, she didn't know me until, half an hour before she said this. And yes, about 10 years ago is when I met with the Brahmin priest the first time in India, and they outlined what my life was to be. And I remember saying, that sounds like a lot of responsibility, teacher and healer, and to learn more and to do more. I'm like, but I did agree to it. And she said, that has been completed. And she kept telling me, like, just relax and enjoy your life. Says, you've done it, Jacqui. You did it. You're amazing. Just enjoy your life. And she said, can I hug you? Which, of course, I love to hug. So I'm hugging her, and I started to weep on her back. And Tom, again, just good guy, just sat there and watched, and and he knew that this was a moment for these two light workers slash demon slayers to take care of it. And I said, my only fear, with all the things that they try to throw at us in fear world, my only fear is, did I do enough? Because that's my prayer, and my prayer all the time is, did I do enough? Did I do enough? Tell me what to do. Well, part of us is so used to being in motion and being in work, is when they don't tell us we have to do anything, we're kind of like, whoa, what happened? What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? And so she said, and I pray every morning, God, tell me what I am to do. Show me what my soul is to do. How am I to take care of this? And she said, you have taken care of this. You and your crew have done your work. It is time to relax and enjoy and let the other people take over. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to do healings. It doesn't mean that we're not going to pray, but it does mean we can all relax. We got rid of the demons, which as a demon slayer was kind of our job and our devotion and wonder. And we've also done so much, particularly because at the time when we were born, if you go back and read anything, from the 50s and the 60s, even somewhat in the 70s, things were very, very different. It wasn't that they were darker then, they were more covered then. Nobody talked about child abuse, nobody talked about trafficking, nobody talked about drug cartels, nobody talked about the government sending boys off to be killed for money, stuff like that. So it wasn't that when we look back and say, oh, the 50s were so nice. No, they weren't so nice. They were just covered up. And we were part of that band that came forward and said, whoa, wait a minute, things aren't the way they're supposed to be. We are supposed to love and respect everyone, regardless of what their choices are. We're supposed to love and respect and be compassionate to everyone, regardless of what they have done. Now, there are some people that have done some things and continue to do those things that we say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I have compassion, and I want you to be a better person. However, until you are, I cannot allow you into my circle, whether that means, unfortunately, putting them in jail or just locking your door against them, depending on what the relationship is. But I want you all to know that the wrap up is that we've gotten rid of the vast majority. The rest are not running around and we have to go find them and pull them out from the hidden places or from the caves. They are there. They aren't off planet yet because we still need to use them for certain things, but they are on their way off planet, unless they are that tip of the spear that is going to flip and become good people, good vibrations, loving, caring, and helping us to build the golden age. Okay, I think those were all the things that we talked about and what we covered. And I will, when I send this out, we'll also send out the link for Patricia Critter-Robles. It's only like a 20-minute, a little bit of talking and some great healing. I know I just listened to it last night, and as soon as it was over, I just picked myself up and went back to sleep, went to bed, because it was so good. I felt like I was walking on air, which is, and my healer back in Vegas knows this, and Amanda knows this. The one thing Amanda said to me to do physically, she said, you have to keep grounding yourself all the time. She said, the reason that you're so dizzy and you're having trouble was there was a purpose for it, because we needed you to do the work, like stay in bed and let us use you, spirit means body. She said, but in addition to that, you're tripping dimensions all the time. And I said, well, I used to do that, but it was like 10 years ago, and I kind of got used to it and, figured it all out. And she said, but you're doing it more now, and you're doing it from a different place on that mountain. We're constantly going up the mountain, and even though we're looking at the same spot every time we make a loop around, we're looking at it from a different altitude and a different attitude. He says, you're just doing so much of it. He says, you must ground yourself. And again, some of the exact same words I've been told before was go outside, walk in the sand, eat. She said, eat red meat. She said, if you eat meat, eat red meat, drink red wine, eat the root vegetables, because you have to keep grounding yourself. And she said, and really just enjoy your life. So I added to my prayer when I wake up every morning and I say, thank you, God, that the world is here, and what is it my soul needs to know? And then I just started adding, like whenever it was 2 weeks ago, and what is it I am to do today to find more joy in life? And very often they'll just tell me, go outside, lay at the pool, go to dinner, whatever it is. It's not something that comes natural to me. It's more natural for me to be focused on work, whatever that work is. And for me to say, okay, I need to focus more on joy, which, by the way, yes, I know I tell this to people all the time. And a lot of what Amanda said to me is the same advice I give to you. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I have to be more grounded. I have to find more joy in my life. And the funny thing is, I have a very enjoyable life. It's that ability to say, let other people take care of what they need to take care of, and you stay here. And along that same line, as I said at the beginning, Facebook has, cut me off for 3 days, which is fine. I will not be posting or reposting the shake, rattle, and roll that I have been doing for the last year and a half. Before that, I never posted any shake, rattle, and roll about earth. Instead, I was posting about spirituality and about joy and goodness. And that's what I have been told now is I'm ready to loop back to, because we have enough people that are posting shake, rattle, and roll. And now some of those people that have shifted and they're aware of the damaging parts of the planet need to have people and events and words of wisdom that bring them up so they don't get stuck in that negative space. If they take the dive into down the rabbit hole, it's time for them to be like, okay, let me help you out of there. It's all right. That's being taken care of. We're going into the golden age. Let's go into it together with love and goodness. So I think that's everything. I love you all. Like I said, if you have any questions at all, please ask the person who sent you this video, and they can ask me, simply because I'm, again, to keep myself grounded in the Holy Spirit. Part of what I've done over the last couple of years is I only work with people that are already in my circle. I don't naturally do healings for newbies, let's just call them. There's nothing wrong with that, but just like I've trained a lot of people to be healers, and of course people have trained themselves to be healers and to be teachers, and I'm only working with those that are already healers and teachers, and kind of in my spiritual tribe. So I love you, I love you, I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you all.